So you have a brand new Ryzen 4000 or NVIDIA 3000 PC, but you need to know how to set it up. Don't worry, because we're gonna help you right here on Robeytech. What is up, everybody? How you doing? I know you are so excited because you've got a brand new, just top of the line PC sitting in your grubby little, well, not sitting in your grubby little fingers because you're hopefully not touching it. And I can see that I've actually touched my case, and now like the OCD in me is like going absolutely bonkers because there's fingerprints right there, and I'm just gonna fix it. Sorry, I gotta fix this. I'm feeling better. Okay, now we can actually get to the subject of the video. So you've got a brand new PC, and I get asked this so many times. Okay, Roby, I've got a new PC. How do I actually set it up? Well, guess what? Today we are gonna walk you through step by step what you need to do to set up a new PC. I'm gonna cover a couple things. I'm gonna show you the steps in terms of installing Windows 10. We're gonna focus on Pro, but the home part of it is very, very much the same. We're gonna then talk about like how you overclock your RAM. It'll be different for every individual BIOS, but it'll still give you the general idea of how to walk through and do it. Then we're gonna talk about what drivers and initializing hard drives. And then finally, just basically, hey, if you wanna 3D mark your system or benchmark your system, where you go about doing that. And so that's the stuff we're gonna cover today in the step-by-step guide. So hopefully by the time that you're done and you've got your brand new system, you can just watch this and then you come to the other side and you're like, yes, it's set up, I'm ready to go, and we're good to go. So that is the goal for today. So let's get started. We got our USB drive, and now we're actually ready to go. I'm gonna use a retail one, so we're good to go there. Now, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna boot into the BIOS, and that's where we're at right now, is we're sitting in the BIOS. Don't put any USBs or anything like that inside of the PC at this point in time. You've just turned it on. Hopefully it's gone to the BIOS. If it hasn't, you'll get a thing at the very beginning that says hit F1 or F2 to enter setup or delete to enter setup. It'll be different depending on your BIOS. When you get in there, your screen should look like this. Now, this is an Aorus BIOS. For every single one, it's going to be very different. The only reason we're going in here right now is that you'll see this thing that says either XMP or you're gonna see DOCP, and you're gonna wanna make sure that is disabled. Before we do not overclock RAM, we don't do anything like that. The only thing that we're verifying right now is that right now any of that stuff is off, because the thing is that whether we know it to be true or know it not to be true, you wanna make sure that the system is the most stable it possibly can be when you install your OS. So if that looks good, everything looks good there, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your USB and you're gonna stick it into the back or one of the empty USB slots that you have on the PC. In this case, we're just gonna put it in our back slot that's back here in the back, wherever you find an empty spot. When you look at the USB, if you see that it's actually blue or gray, that's how you'll know that it's basically the right color. Just looking for that, just making sure you put it in USB 3. That just means it's gonna write a whole lot faster. So once that's done, you're gonna go here, hit save and exit. You didn't do anything, and then you're just gonna hit yes. And the PC is gonna basically restart, and then we're gonna start the process of installing Windows. If you have a key, the one thing I'm gonna tell you is I'm gonna install Windows Pro, and you can do Windows Pro or you can do Windows Home, whichever fancies you. These setups are going to be very, very similar in terms of the options and steps that I'm going to take, which is fine, not a big deal. Don't panic if you see stuff that's a little bit different. Home has less options than Pro, and then the other thing too is because I'm doing Pro, I'm actually gonna show you stuff because I'm going to show you the offline experience. Main reason being is that if you want to set up a Microsoft account or whatever it was, that option is up to you. So I'm going to show you how to do it without a Microsoft account. If you want to do a Microsoft account, it's actually very much the same. So what we have right now is you basically have the option for Windows setup. You can choose 64-bit or 32-bit. We're going to choose 64-bit in this case. And then we're just gonna wait and we're gonna load our files. And then while you're doing this, the other thing too is that there's good things you can practice. You can look at TikToks, especially our TikToks, if you wanna learn something like PC dancing while you're going in there, maybe the Macarena. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you can learn while waiting for your OS to install, because it literally can take some time. It's pretty quick with modern day M.2s, but still, I mean, you know, reading maybe Moby Dick. I mean, any good books you would recommend, Casey, that maybe they'd wanna get in on?
Brothers Karamazov.
Okay, what?
Dostoevsky. They gotta read.
Oh yeah, they gotta read Dostoevsky. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so basically anything. If you're really looking for a really upper, you know, maybe of Mice and Men, you know, all those sort of things. But anyway, we're here, we're set up, we're ready to go. Language to install, if you have options here, this is only English. If you chose, when we talked about that setup, we showed that you can actually choose what's called a multi-language pack. We just chose English, but you have the option of installing other languages. Time and currency format, again, if you care, you have options there. Again, I'm gonna default to English. And then your US input method, If you were from another country and you're watching this, then obviously you know, like for instance, Russian or Japanese all have very different keyboards. They don't use the same keyboard layout that we do. So make sure that you select the right keyboard. We're gonna choose a US formatted keyboard for this and go and hit next. Now, you have two options here: repair your computer, install now. This is not one we're gonna teach you all about repair now or anything like that. We're just showing you how to install the OS. There are some options here. Should you have an issue, we're not gonna worry about that. That's all I have to say. That's my whole spiel. So hitting install now, setup is starting. This is where you might do some additional practice, some other items. Maybe you're watching the entire backlog of Robeytech videos. Okay, so we're here now activating Windows. So you can put in your product key. Product keys, you have a lot of options, like depending whether you buy a product key from Microsoft itself, go to Microsoft.com, get a Windows digital key and get those from Amazon. There are other sites that also allow you to get actual official licensed keys. It's up to you what it is. If you put in a product key, and this is the one thing I'll show you a difference of, if you put in a product key, that product key will determine what version of Windows you install. If you do not, and I'm gonna show you something a little bit different, like if you're not sure, you wanna try the different ones, down here you can say, I don't have a product key. Now you've got the option here of Windows Home In, Windows Home Single Language. Just to tell you the differences between the N version and the non-N version of Windows, whether that's Home, Pro, or Education. The N version doesn't include things like Windows Media Player or any multimedia playback specific stuff, while the Home version does include that stuff. So if you want to take that out, again, I can't give you the specifics of what those are, but I can put a link in the description down below that gives you like more information if you want to make a decision. Again, I normally just install the normal version. We're going to choose, in this case, the Pro version of Windows instead of the Home version. One of the things that I choose, that I do when I always do setups for customers, is I choose the Pro version because you can do what's called an offline account. Home, you don't have the option. You have to have a Microsoft account in order to move through the entire process. On Pro, you don't. You can do what's called a limited experience. I'm going to show you that. Whether the setup is identical, whether you use there's some additional things that you will get if you do the Microsoft account version that you won't get from the limited version. I'll talk about that, but it's things like it'll automatically set up OneDrive and some of those other things. Pretty straightforward stuff. Nothing I really need to walk you through, but again, still getting you the setup. So we're gonna go ahead and choose over here. We're gonna choose Windows Pro in this case and go ahead and hit next. So then we get to accept the terms that were updated from June of 2018. You can read all these if you want. I have not read it. I do not know what it says. It looks super interesting. Maybe some potential toilet reading if you want to. You may want to actually pick up, Pride and Prejudice instead, because that's probably way more entertaining than reading this. Like reverse engineer, decompile, or disassemble. I mean, those all seem like really fun words. Okay, so here's where you get which type of installation do you want. You can do an upgrade install. This is if you were running like Windows 7 or Windows XP or whatever it was and you want to upgrade. We're going to do custom Windows install Windows only because we are not upgrading. So if you're going to do a clean install, go ahead and hit custom. Now you may have more than one drive allocation. Again, you want to do some smart, you want to know what drive you're going to install on. You don't get a ton of information here in terms of what it is. Sometimes what some people do, as an example, is like if you have two 2 terabyte drives and you can't tell the difference between what one is or the other. Sometimes what they'll do, if like one's connected to SATA, they'll have it unplugged. If they're M.2s, where they're placed isn't necessarily a big deal, unless it's the case of you using like a B550 motherboard where one might be PCIe Gen 4 and the other might not be. In that case, drive 0 is going to be the top drive, drive 1 will be the second drive, and they go sequential down the motherboard in this case. There's just some things you can do to verify what that is, but if you are confused, it may not be a bad idea to just install the one, get the OS installed, and then afterwards add your other drives. It's not that big of a deal to go ahead and add drives at any point in time after the install, or in some cases you can just disconnect the SATA cable, do your install, and go from there. These are just little tips to make things a little bit simple, up to you, but let's go ahead and move forward. So you can do stuff like hit new. All you have to do is select the drive. If you hit new in this case, what it would do is it would say stuff like, well, I mean, in this example, if I hit new and I hit apply, you get this whole thing to ensure all Windows formats correctly. It's going to create additional partitions. What you'll do in this case, if you hit new here and hit OK, you'll actually see all of those partitions get created. If you just hit next, it'll do it automatically. You don't have to worry about it. Again, you're gonna have to do it either way. So if you wanna take the extra step, you can, but you don't have to. If you wanna do stuff like you put an older drive in there, this is where you can do things like delete partitions. So one of the things I would suggest, if you have like an older drive and you still have a bunch of stuff here that you're seeing here, go ahead and hit delete until you get down to the unallocated space. and then you can hit next, or if you want to, you can hit format and then hit new. Again, you have some options here, but this is really just about getting it down to the simplest form. I recommend just being at this point and then going, once you have it down to here, just going ahead and hitting next. So we're gonna hit next, and then this is the part where you really can do things like read, etc. Now, one thing I'm gonna do, and one thing I will let you know, and it's okay up until this point, but when you are installing Windows, if you can be connected to the internet at the same time, it will make a big difference, whether that's the wireless or in this case, off of the network. The other thing too that's not a bad idea, while this is doing this, go, especially if you're using like new hardware, like especially like a Ryzen 4000 or a new Intel Z490, depending on the version of Windows, it may not have drivers for things like networks, etc. So go online, search for your motherboard, go to the official site and download the driver specifically for network is really the only one you need. But make sure you have those on hand on a second USB drive, because there may not be an opportunity to actually have Wi-Fi or the internet connected, and so you'll get a limited experience in that case because Windows needs to connect to the network in order to do some of this stuff. So just a nice little tip while you're waiting to just go ahead and get yourself prepped. And you may have already had that ready and good to go. Again, all you got to do is search for the motherboard or whatever it was and quickly find that, and you should be good. So now we just wait and we dance, and this is what we do. So you can take a nap, maybe, if you have enough room, like just crawl on the desk and watch it collapse under me. You know, like just. I love the way the light shines off of the GPU like that. It's mesmerizing. You do some, go over here and polish my Eggy. What do you think? Polish my Eggy right here. My new Eggy. My award. You got an award. Perfect, right? Get that cleaned again. Oh, it's restarting. Okay, woohoo. We've moved on. Once it's restarted, which you're seeing right here, and you've actually gotten the reboot, what you can do is actually remove your USB media. So you do not need this anymore. Once it's done its first initial restart, that's when you can actually remove the media. So we're gonna remove that, just set that off to the side, and then we're gonna let Windows boot up. So here we are. Let's start with region. Is this right? So this is where you get the option. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't feel like I need to explain this. Again, we're gonna choose United States. You can choose your other regions. This is where it's gonna do things like set your time, all those other things. We're gonna choose US. So it's just getting to the basics. Again, keyboard layout, you have all of these different options for keyboard layout. If you are using a different keyboard layout, you should know that. And you can select your option there. Do you want to add a second keyboard layout? Like for instance, if you're going to switch, you have that option there. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and skip this. So now they're going to do some important things that they're not going to tell us about. We don't know. It's so secret what they're doing. But it's important according to this amazing line of text. Okay, just a moment. Now let's see what's new from Windows. So here's where we get into, so how would you like to set this up? If you are setting this up for an organization, honestly, I'm hoping you have an IT division that you're worried about this. That's not what this video is covering. We're gonna hit set up for personal use, hit next. Okay, this is where you get to do stuff. Now, let's add your account. Now, I'm gonna do what's called an offline account, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But if you have a Microsoft account, like for instance, if I put something in there and I had like a test Microsoft account, this is where you could put that data in and walk through the setup. And it's just what's called a WYSIWYG, which is a UI-driven wizard that'll just walk you through to get you set up and ask you things like OneDrive and Cortana and stuff like that. It's, again, pretty self-explanatory. It's gonna look very similar to what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna set up an offline account because it's gonna show you the same thing. We'll still go through some of the critical options here, but I wanna show you that. So we're gonna collect an offline account, and it's gonna give me a warning and tell me stuff like, hey, it's gonna do things like if I wanna sync things between games and Office and Microsoft Xbox and have it sync across all these devices, then I wanna actually use a Microsoft account, but I don't care about that stuff right now. I just wanna get into Windows. I'm gonna go ahead and choose limited experience. And then this is where you can choose like who's going to use this PC. In this case, Robeytech is. You just give yourself whatever name, and then I'm gonna go ahead and hit next. And then you can create a super memorable password. For the sake of this video, I'm just gonna not use one because I just want it to be able to boot right in. If you don't choose a password, Windows will sign right in. You won't have to worry about logging in. If you put in a password, you have to put that in obviously every time you log in. So hitting next there. Now, do more across devices with active history. This is just doing stuff like if you want to have it work across all of like, you have your account work across multiple devices, you have the option there. It's up to you whether you want to have your activity history on the interwebs at your choice. I'm going to go ahead and hit no in this case. This is if you want to use the digital assistant Cortana. Nobody uses this. It's not something that Microsoft does all that much with. I have a tendency to turn it off. If you are using it, if you're one of the few people using Windows Phone or whatever it was, or you want to talk to your PC, you can turn this on. So I'm going to go ahead and hit decline there. And this is where you're going to get your privacy settings. And this is again, completely up to you. You have the option of having everything, like having Windows do everything. This is what I turn off by default. I do not do online speech recognition. I do not do Find My Device because I'm not carrying around my PC. In the case that you actually are doing like maybe a small form factor, you want to be able to find your device, maybe that's something you turn on. Inking and typing. If you are using Windows Surface or something like that, and you are inking and typing, I would leave this on. Again, this is data that's going to improve stuff. So anything that improves the experience, I have a tendency to leave on. Because I am not, I'm turning that off. I'm not going to do the advertising ID to provide more personalized advertising. That's not a big deal to me. Location, don't want people to know about it. I want to be prompted for anything having to do with my location. Diagnostic data, I do keep this on. Again, this is things that uses for like Watson and other diagnostic tools that are built into Windows. So if apps or if Windows crashes, it will provide that data to the app publishers, developers, or Windows to help make Windows better. This is something I would always keep on because I can tell you right now, as somebody who works at Microsoft and also somebody who works on games, the only stuff that's in there are mini dumps. It's not stuff that has personal data. These guys, we get in a lot of trouble because of things like GDPR, which is the thing that governs like personal data, etc. So if you have that on, you're not giving them any data. All you're doing is giving them the stuff to help them improve their experience should something crash. And then tailor experiences. Again, I have a tendency to turn this off. That it's up to you. I turn this off. I don't care about personalized ads or anything like that. That's where it's using my data to help me sell stuff. So hitting accept, and then you can hit learn more if you want to learn more about all that information. So we're going to hit accept, and then this is just going to basically, now we're into Windows. Okay, so now we're set up, and I'm going to talk to you about the things that I do initially. So we're in Windows. The first things that I do is I open up the Windows Store, and I open up the settings, and I open up the update and security. So these are the two things that I do initially. Now, if you do not see this network icon in the bottom, see how I have a network and internet access down here in the bottom right? If you do not see this, what you see is like a little world icon that shows disconnected. It looks something like this. If you see that icon right there that says not connected, connections are unavailable, that may mean that your network stuff is not set up. I told you to download that. All you got to do is put in your USB, right click on that and execute that. It should install your network stuff. And then once that is done, you will be back at this step where I am right here. If you have any questions about that, you can check out our Discord where we have people who help with tech specialists. I'm trying to help make this universal. I don't want to make it go too deep for each one of those, but that's all you have to do is basically install your network driver, which you should have downloaded from your motherboard manufacturer. So here we are. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to hit check for updates. And then I'm also going to open up Windows Store. And there's a couple reasons I do this, and I'll tell you why. Up here, I'll go to the top right and hit download and updates, and I'm gonna get updates here. And there's a couple things. If you're a gamer, I love the game bar, and game bar has things like, it does things like helping you with diagnostic data. The other thing too is it's also a really quick way and probably one of the best overlays in terms of checking things like your frame rate, your CPU usage and stuff like that by hitting Windows G. There's also a bunch of other things that Windows Store has updates for that you're gonna wanna go ahead and get that are applications that are used throughout Windows 10. So again, what I'm doing right now is I'm completely focused on just making sure that Windows is completely up to date. So we're gonna run through these depending on which version or how, like if you're using a retail version like I am. If you've downloaded the one that if you've gone through the steps earlier and created your own setup disk, you probably don't have as many updates as I do, but regardless, run the updates, make sure everything's good, and then we'll come back from there. So one quick notification, when you're done, make sure you go back to your store, go back and hit get updates one more time. Make sure that, again, you've got all the updates. You're gonna do the same thing again with your Windows update. When you reboot, make sure that you have all of the updates. And then once this is completely updated, once we have everything updated on both Windows and on Windows Store, then at that point in time, we're gonna get into doing the other things. So that's where we're at right now. We're just gonna finish this out and go from there. We have Done our Windows updates. We're just now waiting for it to finish. So it's just working on those updates. Again, like I said, rinse, repeat, make sure that you have all of the updates, and then we'll make sure that we're at a completely good state, and then we will talk about what is next. We are now completely ready. All of our Windows updates are done. Now what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna tell you this, I don't have any additional hard drives, but if you have secondary hard drives that you have not initialized, all you gotta do is hit the Windows key, or you hit this icon down here, type hard, and then space, and then drives, hit create and format hard disk partitions, and it's gonna contact. Now, if you had another one here, you could right click on it, hit new simple volume, and this is where you go to create a new hard drive. So it'll be black, it'll look clear. This is where you'd have the option for that. So this is how you initialize a hard drive. So again, that's how you basically set that up. So once you have that gone, you're good to go. Your hard drives are installed, all that sort of stuff. What we're gonna do now is I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about driver management. There's a couple things that you can do for driver management. Some of that is done via Windows Update, which is what we showed you. When you want to get your NVIDIA drivers or your AMD drivers, whichever option it is, NVIDIA is called GeForce Experience. You're just going to want to go into it. In this case, I'm using Bing, or you can Google, just do Google or download GeForce Experience. And there it is right there. And then you're going to want to download this. You can hit download now, which we're going to go ahead and do, which we have the option for. Another thing, if you don't want to download GeForce Experience, or you do not want to download the AMD version, which if you go to, because I have an NVIDIA in here, but if you're looking for it, look for AMD Radeon drivers, and then you'll have AMD, and then here's where it says AMD drivers and support. So this is where you go and download the AMD stuff, is right here. And then you just hit download now. And again, I'll put links for this stuff down below to download both the AMD and the NVIDIA. One thing I want to talk to you about, which is actually better than all those options, but it does cost you money, is called Drive Booster Pro, and it's from a company called IO. They're not sponsor, but this is what I use. Drive Booster Pro is from a company called IObit. It is actually a paid subscription. I think it's like $30 a year. And what it does is it allows you to update your drivers for basically 3 PCs for $30. And one of the things that's nice about Drive Booster Pro is that you don't have to install GeForce Experience, you don't have to install the Radeon stuff, you don't have to install anything that has to do with drive management. It will basically install all the drivers, and you would be surprised how many drivers are out of date. And one of the things that I think is a big issue that a lot of people have functionality problems with is that drivers are not up to date, especially if you're a content creator, you are somebody like a video editor or things like that, specifically with like Premiere, where drivers can actually end up being super funky. So all of us here at Robeytech actually do use this. Again, they don't pay us, we're not being paid by them, but this is our drive manager of choice. We just download this, and then what it does is we just run it. It'll tell us on a consistent basis when drivers are out to date. I usually scan every 5 to 10 days because that's when you'll get like updated graphics drivers, etc. Great option if you want to check it out. If not, the only ones that you really do need is you need your graphics driver, which right here, what you're seeing is me agreeing and installing GeForce Experience, and you need anything for RGB. And I'm gonna talk to you about the different RGB options. If you're using ASUS, ASUS actually has when you install Windows 10, it will automatically run what's called a resident program. It's built into Windows 10 where it will install something automatically. MSI also has a similar app. So if you have MSI or an ASUS board, you will get a Armory Crate is the one for Armory Crate, I believe, is the one for ASUS, and then MSI Dragon Center is the one for MSI, where it will basically pop something up and says, hey, do you want to install this? That will do things like update your drivers for ASUS automatically, and also do things like allow you to control all of the lighting, etc. for that particular brand of motherboard. If you are looking for Aorus, you are going to look for RGB Fusion. RGB Fusion 2.0, all you have to do is search on that, and then you'll actually get the download. There it is right there, Gigabyte RGB Fusion. I'll put links for this stuff down below. So there's your RGB Fusion stuff. This will allow you to change all of the things that are connected to your motherboard. If you have the Wraith Prism cooler, all you're gonna do is search for Wraith Prism, and I'm showing you all this stuff so you go in there. And again, all of these links will be there, but if you look Wraith Prism software, it's actually created by Cooler Master. And if you wanna change your lighting for that, this is where you would download and install your lighting for the Wraith Prism. Hit download there, and then you'll have your app and stuff for running your Wraith Prism. If you're looking for ASRock, do a search for your motherboard specifically, and then you're gonna go to menu and you're gonna go to support. So here we go. We search up the Fatality X399, and then you'll see here, you'll see download. And then here, when you hit Windows 64, here is where you will actually get all the RGB software. So if it's Polychrome, it'll be here. but you actually want to search on ASRock for their particular board because they actually put it hidden. There's not like a download place like you would for Asus, and in some cases, some of the other brands. So that's ASRock, Asus, Aorus, and MSI. Again, all of them, MSI and Asus all come from their Windows 10 app, and then Aorus and ASRock come from applications. Aorus you download just easily. ASRock you actually have to get from, ASRock you actually have to get from the support site. Hopefully that helps you with that. Last thing
is Corsair.
Corsair actually uses what's called IQ. IQ is one, so if you're using, a lot of people use Corsair stuff, you're gonna download IQ, and there it is right there. So there's your IQ download. You get that directly from Corsair. Hit download now, and that's gonna allow you to change all of your lighting on your Corsair IQ stuff. Once you basically have all of your applications, everything set up and good to go, we'll move on to the next step. So again, hopefully you're using Drive Booster Pro. If not, download your graphics drivers, download your RGB stuff. Now, one thing I will give you a little caveat before we jump to the next step is that in some cases, like for instance, Fortnite, etc., some of those RGB applications can actually be considered cheat vectors. So you may have issues with certain games and anti-cheat stuff. It all depends, and it changes on a consistent basis. So if you're having problems running games, the first thing you may want to do is remove the RGB software. I do know for a fact that Asus and Corsair more than likely are not going to have a problem, but you might have stuff with around Thermaltake, etc., where there might be potential issues. So again, I put all the links for all that stuff down in the description below. Hopefully that helps you. Pretty self-explanatory for installing, but I just wanted to help you understand what the bare minimum that you want to get. At this point in time, I just want to recap where we are. We have installed Windows. We've got Windows updates all up to date, Microsoft Store all up to date. We've installed our graphics drivers. We've installed our RGB software, everything that we need to control this stuff based on what we had before. And then outside of that, we're actually pretty good to go. Hopefully you're using Drive Booster Pro or some sort of other driver manager, because there's more than likely a lot of things that you may need to update in addition to this, but trying to find that stuff and explain that in a single video is actually really hard. So again, I recommend that because that's a little bit easier. Final step is you're gonna go down here once this is all done. So you're basically, you could just start the PC, but there's one final step. So you're gonna go start, power, you're gonna restart the PC, and then when you get to your boot prompt at the very beginning, whether that's Aorus or MSI or Asus or whatever it was, you're gonna go into the BIOS. And I'm gonna show you on this one, but it should be pretty easy. You're gonna have to search for it, but it should be pretty easy to find what I'm talking about. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna basically overclock your RAM. If you have issues when you do this, and you're like all of a sudden your PC's not booting or whatever it was, you can go turn this off. Hopefully you've done a good job selecting RAM that gives you that option and you're good to go. What you're gonna do is you're gonna find either DOCP or XMP, change it to profile 1. You'll see there'll be some sort of indication on your screen. In this Aorus one, it's right here. It tells you it's basically good to go. And then you're gonna hit save and exit and hit restart. And then now, when the PC boots into the OS, you're actually completely ready to go. I will give you a couple things in case there's problems. It may actually be fine if you are loading and all of a sudden it's consistently rebooting or you're not seeing a boot. You may actually need to update your BIOS. And all you gotta do is go to a second PC, do a search for your motherboard. You can download the BIOS, put it on a separate USB, follow the instructions there, and then reflash your BIOS, and more than likely that will actually fix your issue. In that case, if you find yourself having problems with your particular brand of memory and in this case, your PC. Just that's like first troubleshooting if you're having an issue and you've verified that it's supposed to work, or that it's like, for instance, it might be AMD Neo from G-Skill or something like that. That could potentially be the issue. The final thing, I'm gonna put a link down in the description below, is looking for a program called 3D Mark. 3D Mark is a benchmarking software. So if you wanna go, you got your PC done, you've got everything all set up, you're ready to go, and you wanna go find out how that thing performs, all you gotta do is go down to, you're basically gonna go download 3D Mark based on the description, and then run that, and then you can upload that and stuff like that. And so that's your final step in terms of seeing how your PC was. So that's it, guys. That's your PC is now entirely set up and ready to go. All you gotta do now is install games. I'll put some links down to where to get that stuff, whether that's Steam, EA Origin, or if you're gonna go get the Epic Store, or maybe the Xbox Game Pass. I'll put links down to the stuff below to go get your games and get going. I wanna know, was this helpful? Did you find everything here useful? Did you find it good? Did this get you to the starting point that you wanted to be by when you got your new PC? You're running your awesome 4000 series, your awesome NVIDIA series, or whatever it was. You're good to go. Let me know that in the comments below. Was there something that I should have added? Was there enough information? Was there not enough information? Was there something that I skipped? I tried to be super thorough and help you be able to set up the PC from beginning to end, but was there something that you would have liked to have had added? Love to know that in the comments below as well.
Now, while you're down there,
make sure you slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring that notification bell so you get a notification each and every time we have a video that goes live. Also, guys, come join us. Follow me on all the socials. Follow me on the socials, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter,
even TikTok, where we're hanging out with all the hip kids.
All of that stuff, all at Robeytech. Join us over on Discord, where we do giveaways, we talk about tech, we talk about PC hardwares, we share our builds, you get help with builds, all that sort of stuff. It's an incredible community. Just reached over 4,000 people and growing if you just want to come hang out and have a really good time. Outside of that, guys, we're gonna go continue to take awesome pictures of this, go play some games, and do all that fun stuff. I hope you do the same thing, and we will see you in the next video.